Okay, hello, my name's Alan Tomasi. I'm going to be giving a webinar on how to find your bioparents using Ancestry. First off, I am not a professional. I'm an architect. You can see my office behind me. I've got dual monitors. That's why I came in here. But my whole family's always enjoyed genealogy. So my wife, Debbie's mother, my mother-in-law, never knew who her dad was, had a pit photo and a name, and that was it. So, she tried to find him, before computers and all that, before DNA. And she passed away. My father-in-law passed away. DNA came out. So I looked at my wife and said, hey, let's get our DNA tested. 23 had come out before Ancestry, so we did 23andMe. And she started getting like inquiries from people we didn't know. I mean, her last name's Knutson, she was Scandinavian, and we started getting texts from Neckers, Germans. So it was like, how does this fit in? So we just kind of ignored it for a while. And then a Necker, senior Necker, contacted us and said, look, we need to deal with this. There's a relationship here. So I started building out his tree and, kind of where does this fit in? Then one day, 23andMe, and Debbie's first cousin, once removed, wasn't showing up as a connection. So I contacted her and said, something's wrong here. She had no connection to her side. So right there, we knew Debbie's dad wasn't her dad. And then we're like, how does her mom fit into this Necker? We had an Al McKinnon, and all of a sudden it's a Necker. So started researching and trying to figure out things just weren't jiving. And then I checked Debbie on the California Birth Index. Live in California, so everyone's born in California is on a birth index. She wasn't on it. So right then and there, I knew she was adopted. Telling her is a whole nother story. So then became the search. Who, what happened? Because they're both her adoptive parents have passed, so we had no one to ask questions of. So right away, I was realizing that 23andMe wasn't giving me what I wanted. So we did the ancestry testing. Started looking at the California Birth Index, and for her birthday, I should say, in LA County, there were 7 names where the mother's name was both in the mom's name and the dad's name. So we assumed, okay, what happens if those are the adopted children? And so we looked at those 7 names and, voila, here's one that's housing, German name. I'd already built out the Necker tree, so I knew the connection to housing. So we kind of assumed who biomom was right away, confirmed it as soon as we got the ancestry DNA. So this class is kind of what I went through to find her parents, specifically her dad, because her dad was never told, so he wasn't looking for her. So it was just strictly using ancestry DNA to find him. And that's the fun part. This class, I'm going to hopefully move at a good pace. It's assuming you're already familiar with the Ancestry program. If not, this is a recording. You can get into it, then come back to this. There's a handout somewhere that you guys can see that is more detailed than what I'm going to be giving you guys. I've outlined my outlined in steps, the same steps that are on that handout. So that may help. First off is setting up a tree. So now I'm going to go to share screen, and I'm going to do this and share. So now you see my ancestry tree. Now I have to remember what I was going to talk about. Okay, so setting up a tree. When you're doing your research, you want to set up a private tree, because if you're fooling around with things, nothing exact is you figure things out. You don't want someone else to see this tree and think, oh, gee, that's how we're related. So right off the bat, this tree here, I guess I could go settings, tree settings, and privacy settings. Down here, you can make this a private tree and also prevent people from being searched. This is my tree. It's well worked out now, so I don't have that privacy settings. I then hit change. So that's something you should set up when you're doing your research tree right off the bat. Going back to my tree. So this is my personal information. So please, don't take screenshots. It's going to be recorded, so it's out there. So there's different ways of working on things. You can work on a phone, on an app, or on your computer. The computer can do certain things that the app can't. For adding people, I love using an app. It's just a lot more easier. Computers are a little more clunky. The app has, I'll open me up here, profile. You have a lot of tools here that you don't have with the app. You can merge the duplicates. So if you see that you've gone off on a tangent and you've got duplicates, you can merge them. You can also, let's go to Debbie. I can see Debbie here. That's my wife. And so here's her information. An interesting thing you could do is if you're adopted, you could set up dual sets of parents. So if you go here and you go to, actually it's under edit relationships. So here you see she has 2 dads and 2 moms. So here's her adoptive mom, dad, and adoptive mom. You can only see one at a time in your tree. So I've got her adoptive parents tree fairly well built out. I'm doing research. You can select headings from biological, adopted, foster. So you can set up all sorts of, oops, hopefully I didn't change anything. All sorts of relationships there. You can make either one preferred. So for the sake of this is that. So if I go to her tree, I don't see her. That's a little slow today. I don't see her adoptive family. It's just, that was really slow. Just her biological family. So here she is, and here's her bio dad and her bio mom. So I can always search. I know they're there, so I could do a tree search. I can always go, there he is. So his tree's here, and she appears in this tree too. So it's there. You just get to pick one or the other that you want to see. Okay. So that's the difference between computers and your iPhone. A lot of times when I'm building trees, I'll have my phone open. I'll have 2 different trees and 2 different monitors. I'll touch on that a little bit later. So the next step is purchase a DNA kit. This takes a little while for these tests to come in. So you should be doing that, maybe even step 1. I just put build a tree step 1 because just get you into the program. When you get your DNA, you could tie it into you and your tree, connect it, and that's what it should be. I explained that in there. I'm not going to really go into it. I did this so long ago, I've forgotten some of the steps. Another thing you could do is send away for your non-identifying paperwork. And depending upon who adopted you, my wife, her adoption went through the state. Even though it was private, the state does all the paperwork for the adoption, so they have it. You can send away for it. Again, anything that we're doing in this process, it all takes a long time. The DNA tests take a long time. Trying to connect with people takes a long time. Getting your non-identifying paperwork takes a long time. So it can be very frustrating. So you have to have a little bit of patience, make notes where you left off, what you're waiting for, stuff like that. So the state has, I don't know if I have it in it's in my handout. Here's the form, what it looks like roughly for the state of California. Every state has it. And what you're going to get from this is non-identified. So it's not going to tell you who the names are or anything like that. It'll tell you hair color, some there's a whole full report, and whoever does this types up a 2-page summary of what they think is pertinent for you to know. Lovely as it is, that's just the way it is, and that's probably a whole nother subject of a bunch of other webinars going on right now too, being your rights. So that's your non-identifying paperwork. There's also a lot of good Facebook groups. One is DNA Detectives, and I have that. There's some other ones on there, and it's a closed group, so it's invitation only. The nice thing about closed groups, whatever you talk about stays in that page. No one can see your conversation, so everything's private and personal. They have search angels in there. So when I got my wife's into this birth certificate, you have your sealed birth certificate and you have your amended birth certificate. Your amended birth certificate will have a bunch of numbers, I believe, in the upper right-hand corner. Those numbers mean something to the search angel. So they can look at microfilm and they can confirm the last name of the bio mom if you have that. So, there's a lot of resources besides just DNA and Ancestry here, and you've got to be working all of them at the same time. So after you get your DNA results, you link your DNA to yourself. What else? Got my bar right in front of my notes here. So when you get your DNA results, you go up here to DNA, your DNA summary. Your ethnic estimate, that just shows, okay, you're this much Scottish, this much this, whatever. I mean, that's interesting in its own thing, but it's not going to help you find your bio parents. Through lines tells you how you're related to everyone else. That's not going to come through until you've already solved it on your own. So the only thing we're really interested right now for finding your bio parents is DNA matches. So view all DNA matches. Now, I know who my parents are, so I'm siblings. So yours is probably going to start, if you're lucky, you'll have second cousins. Mainly you'll have third cousins and fourth cousins. I don't go beyond fourth cousins. Preferably you have a fair amount of third cousins in there that you can draw from. Okay, so you see under, when you open one of these up, let's open Catherine up, you'll see trees, ethnicity, and shared matches. Trees are, does she have a tree? And this lady's got a huge tree. We talk back and forth all the time. Ethnicity doesn't really matter. Shared matches is a good one. So shared matches show you how you're related to other people. And I have this because I know what my DNA is. I have pink and blue. So, I know she's on my mother's side, everything like that. So I'm going to jump over. I have another screen open for my brother-in-law's DNA. So this is the joy. You can open up multiple ancestry, views at the same time. So I have grouped I have multiple groups, and I call it group 1, who I think is maternal, who I think may be McKinnon, who's, you can make as many groups as you want. So if you open up this person, who I know is Scandinavian, he is a Knudsen, shared matches, I could kind of start, seeing who's blue, who's not. So you want to try to start grouping people as good as you can in group 1, group 2. What you're trying to do is separate the maternal from the paternal groups, and that will not be obvious at first. So you may have multiple groups of people. It could be maternal, grandfather, maternal, grandmother, or it could even be further up the tree. So just, you have a lot of options here. Also too, when you open up someone, besides add edit groups here, you've got add notes. I find adding notes is great. It's like, don't waste your time on this person. This person, obviously they'll have a good tree, all that stuff. There's sometimes a big tree, even though it's helpful, it could be overwhelming. Unlinked trees is my brother. Let's see, let's stay with newts and, excuse me, trees. Let's get out of his DNA. Actually, his tree's my tree, so I want to stay in his DNA. So here's an unlinked tree. Well, what is this? How many, a lot of times these unlinked trees, okay, he's got 4 people, you can see right here. So that's really not worth worrying about. So you can see here, my note for him is group 1 related to GC, Newt not related to Julian Mills, only has 4 people in their unlinked tree. So I don't need to open it up to see how many people are in their unlinked tree. Again, I could put that in notes. 150 people, 100. So trying to do my brother-in-law's tree, finding out Alan McKinnon, I had a lot of trouble because third cousins were very few. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could pretty much throw out 7 people, 33 people, 100 people's probably good, but that's not the side I was looking for. Anyway, so that's how that kind of goes. Okay. So we did add edit groups, add nodes below this. Let's see, 3 tabs tree. Okay. So now another thing you could do is export your DNA to other groups. The only 2 proprietary groups are 23andMe and Ancestry. So you can't take your DNA from Ancestry and put it in a 23andMe and vice versa. But you could do family tree DNA. You could do, what is it, Jed, oh God, I did even, go to my full notes. Family tree DNA and GEDmatch. GEDmatch is pretty heady. It's got a lot of really technical stuff on there. I found it easier just staying with Ancestry, but you could plug things in there. You put your email, so you could get inquiries and stuff like that if you do have a match. You just basically, you want to take your DNA and then just everything you do, just put the word out that you're looking and let other people know what you're looking for. So the basis of this show is, webinar, is to do mirror trees. Mirror trees basically means you're building someone else's tree. So you know you're related to them, you don't know how, so you build a tree. The issue is when you build trees in Ancestry, you can't combine them. So you can't build one mirror tree here and one mirror tree there. It's got to be all in your tree so you can combine them later on. Because if you build separate trees, you just have to throw it out. I do little things what I call research trees. Just I know they're going to be throwaways. Just if I'm trying to work something out, like this one only has like what 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people. Again, my settings on this, because it is a research tree, is all private. So privacy settings, I have it private, and so people can't search it. So I'll just do little breakouts for myself, just to kind of study something. Another thing I should go into is sharing. The way Ancestry is set up is that this is how to do it. And then you can go into tree settings. Actually, let's go back into my tree. Is that you can't see other people's living relatives. Sometimes those are going to be your relatives that you're related to. So you want to write them and ask them if they'll share their tree with you. So tree settings, here's sharing. So here's all the people I've shared with. This is what you're looking for here, living information, can see living people. So if you write them, say, and can you check the box saying can see living people? Because that's what you're really looking for to help you build your tree. Not everyone's open to that. You'll get all sorts of responses. I write to people all the time. And also another thing I do the notes for in the DNA, I'll make a note of who I wrote to and when I wrote to them, just so I don't forget and write to them again and pester them. You don't want to pester people. I've even emailed, FedEx things to people and say, if you don't respond to this, I'll never bug you again. And, I honor that. So you got to respect people's privacies, but then you're desperately want information, and sometimes you get it and sometimes you don't. It's just the luck of the draw. So anyway, this is a good part of your tree. So mirror trees. What I do, I kind of came up with my own terminology for this. Instead of mirror tree, there's kind of floating. You can start a tree and break it off of your tree and build out this whole other tree doing research on it, because you don't want it to throw off the tree trying to figure out the relationship because you just arbitrarily plugged it in. You don't know where this other tree fits into your tree yet. So you want it. Now, you have all these floating trees, you got to write them down, because you can lose them, because, they're there just like the other set of relatives is there, but it's hidden. This one's not even connected. So I have, for example, it's not really a floating tree in my tree. Again, very slow connection here for some reason. So I've got my daughter, Chelsea. She's dating someone. I wanted to do a little research on his family. He's there. He's just not really visible. So if I type in his name, let's see. I know how to spell. So there he is. So I've got his family built out, completely separate. You don't even see my daughter in here or anything like that. Now, if I wanted to connect him to my daughter, I could do that. And I can also disconnect him. This is the whole premise behind floating trees. So let's go back to my tree. In my tree, so I guess I have to go to Chelsea. Daughter. So here she is. So if I want to connect her, add a relatives, so I connect spouse. That's what I could do. So select someone from your tree, because you don't want to add them new. So there he is. So save. That's probably going to want to regenerate. So there he is with his whole family tree. So now, let's say that's a new mirror tree that I'm doing, and I want to separate that relationship. I can go up here, edit relationships, pick him, and hit X. Now you can remove him, or this person will not be removed from your tree. So I'm just removing the connection between the two of them. So now he's no longer there as a spouse, and I have this whole separate tree. So if you're going along, and let's say I want to do a research tree, or build someone else's tree. So I can, with her, add a relatives. And let's say doesn't matter what I call, could be boy one. Boy one, and it's going to regenerate. I want to go into her profile again, edit relationships, and boy one. one's not there? Oh, because it's probably a, how did I set it up? Okay, I think I set it up as a brother sister. So I'd have to go into my relationship, my profile, and separate it there. Sorry, a little confusing. So there's boy one, remove. So now boy one's floating out there. It's not in my tree anymore. So go to view tree. So boy one's not there. Oh, boy one's still there. Oh, because I didn't disconnect from, okay, I'm really, I'm sorry. I'm making this a lot more hard. I also have to remove it from my wife because now it thinks it could be her. Probably good to go through all this. So here, no more boy one. So now tree search, boy one, Tomasi. So now I've basically set up a separate research tree. So I can go into now someone else's DNA, view their full tree. Oh, don't tell me. Why are they not letting me see this tree? Anyway, you should be able to see their full tree. Here's a partial tree. There we go. So now I'm into her tree. So she had 100 people in her tree. I always like this format better, but everybody's different and you could scale it. So if I want to see more or less people on this, I could do it. So Mia Hughes is, oh, this probably isn't the best. Anyway, I can start building this tree. Let's pick a tree with more people in it. So you can see how, even though it's a big tree, 100 people, it's not really big enough for our purposes. And then again, you don't want to get too big because you're going to be building it out. So she's private, so you don't know who she is. Okay, so here we go. So I've got boy one sitting over here. So I could just, I don't have to have her. I could, well, I know her name, so I can quick edit, call it Sarah Ekman. And her dad is Hans. So basically you're just building out her tree. And then private here. So I don't know who that is. So you could, sometimes I do grandma one. Or sometimes it's grandma and great grandma. Say if you don't know last name, but then you do know her last name because here it is. Gustafson. Quick edit. That's the joy of this, is like, even though it's private, you can still guesstimate. Another great resource are obituaries, because obituaries, people spill their guts. This is, best friends, our cousins and nieces and nephews, wealth of information. my game is always try to get as much as I can free without paying. So I don't have a subscription to newspapers.com, which Ancestry now owns. But that's a great resource for things. And I go into that in my notes and everything in more detail. Even just Google searches can lead to a lot of information on all these people. So as you're building all this stuff, you know, why am I building all this stuff? And also too, in my handouts, I've included this. This is from DNA Detectives. This is your range. So when you're looking at the CMs here, you can see how everything is. Like when I was doing research on my wife, it said this person was a second cousin. Well, it actually ended up being a first cousin once removed. So she was in this level. When it's the first cousin once removed, it's a whole nother ballgame. So this kind of gives you all the different options of what your relationship could be. So here's a thing on triangulation. Here you are. You've got your paternal group and your maternal group. You've got your bio dad and your paternal grandma. So when you're building a tree, it may be way off this line. And then, you know, you don't know in their tree where it's going to go. That's why you don't want to get it too big because you're going to be building this all out. So you could be building one tree here and hopefully one tree here. And then all of a sudden you'll discover who biodad is. You keep working this down, this triangulation down from these mirror groups into it. And there's articles in there that I give links to where you can read more on this. Don't Google floating tree because that's not a legal term. That's just my term. But mirror trees is the proper term to Google. And I gave you some handouts on that. So, you know, then also too, you may get a tree going up the paternal granddad side and one on the maternal grandma on the maternal, and there's no connection there until you figure out more stuff. So you got to be doing a lot of hunting and pecking and everything like that. Hopefully, you know, if you do your, let me go to show you too how, can't remember if I have, I think I have, can't remember if I have a link to birth indexes or not. Okay, birth, marriage. I have it on my, hang on a second. I'm gonna open my, you're gonna get a bunch of pop-up screens because I just opened up my email. Okay, here we go. Here's your California birth index. There's all my pop-ups. Okay, so in here, so let's say if I was looking for my wife. And just put Los Angeles, and you want Los Angeles County, and search. She's not there. Okay, so you can, instead of that, I could just search no name, birth, it's her birth date, again, Los Angeles County, and And then you want to select sex because you're knocking out 50% of the people. So here's all the people, girls, born on her day. So 20 pages, it's a lot of people. But if you see here, here's name and mother's maiden name. So the child here is Compton, that's Dad's last name. So you're looking for something that says Anderson and Anderson. So I don't know if I could do a search here. Let's go through, see. So anyway, you can print this out. It's a pretty good little, different states are going to be different. I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to cheat because I know here I'm going to update, or I should say edit search. Okay, edit search. Nope, too late. I'm just going to go back here. So I'm going to go 23rd August. I'm not born, you guys. Mother. I know it's hosing, female, and location. So I'm just going to search. Okay, so here she is. So here's what I was talking about, where you see housing, in the baby's name, because baby doesn't have any first name, and the mother's maiden name. So that's what you're looking for, that type of connection where the baby doesn't have a name. Because most likely, if the baby, mom knows they're going to be up for adoption, they won't name the baby. So, here it is. This is my wife. And this is what tipped us off to the family name. Now, we were lucky enough to have a connection with the Necker side, so we built out their tree. You may not have that. So everyone's going to have a little bit different search things. Some of them might be more frustrated. Like I said, my brother-in-law, very frustrating with him, just because there was just no information. Whatever information was on either his mom was McElravy. There was a lot of McElravy, but that was on the grandma's side, not on the granddad's side. So I haven't been able to find out who his granddad is. It could be that he was an only kid and the parents were single parents. I mean, sometimes people just don't have a lot of DNA out there. Some families love DNA, some don't. So, some families know they have secrets to hide. Some families don't know they have secrets to hide. So my my wife's bio mom didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew. Her mom didn't know. No one knew. She eventually got married, had a kid. We've met both the husband and the stepson, and neither one of them knew. A little shocked finding out, but open to things. But that line of communication kind of, he wasn't comfortable with it. He had kids and he didn't want them to know. So everybody has their own reasons. Now, on my bio dad side, Debbie's bio dad side, when we found out who he was, and like a week after I found out, all their DNA came on. So let's look at her tree, his tree. So I go to DNA. I get all these people to share their DNA with me. So I have a whole bunch of DNA. So you could share tests with everyone. So here's my wife's. I got Donald Raybon. So that's her uncle. So how did I do that? Well, I could view his. So I got this like a week after, and I just knew, because I'd already gone on Facebook's another great thing. I found all these people on Facebooks. I saw pictures of Debbie's biodad, so I knew something was wrong. It turned out to be Alzheimer's. So if I had gotten this earlier, it would have saved me so much time. I spent, I forget how many months on this stuff. I wrote it down here. It just takes a long time. You can't be frustrated. I mean, every evening I came home and it was on my phone working on it. My whole family was like harassing me, teasing me. So anyway, when I got this DNA from the uncle, and they just did DNA because they thought they had Indian in their DNA, which could still be the case, but Indian DNA is a whole nother testing system. I contacted, it's managed by the mom, which is not Debbie's mom. And she wasn't close, but she was pensive. And she goes, I don't know how this could be true. And I tried again, I explained to her, and she goes, I don't know how this could be true. So then we wrote to Don, because being elder, we figured he wasn't maybe up to date on computers. And again, just stuff I found on the internet. Didn't hear back from him. Well, he had gone to her, and she says, don't talk to them. So then one more try. You don't want to pester his family. We picked the oldest sibling, her oldest sister, who is Lori right here that you see. And I had all of her information. And so we emailed her. My wife emailed her. And she goes, we need to talk. And so they had a lovely, lovely talk. And she goes, I don't care what my mom says. And they had some other run-ins with this, people looking for money. So the mom was doing what she should have done, protecting the family. That's your number one goal. They Googled us, realized we weren't after the money. So then things opened up, and we went out there twice and had a wonderful time. This is, they're out in New Jersey, we're in California. And then we went out for the funeral, which was, a little bittersweet. But they listed her in the obituary, my wife, and it was just lovely. It just ended up. So you don't, you're putting yourself out there when you're doing this stuff, and you've already been abandoned once by your bio mom. Bio dad may or may not have been aware. So the last thing you want to do is be rejected again. But if you don't put yourself out there, you don't find out. It can be very heart-wrenching. I understand that. So anyway, that's kind of how that goes. It's your call. I know a lot of adoptive people who just don't want to find out. They don't even want to go down that avenue. And some are kind of curious, and you just don't know. Kind of plowing through this kind of quickly. So the main thing is knowing you cannot combine trees. That's the whole reason for doing the floating trees in your main one tree, so you can combine them later. You're not just throwing out all this information. A new thing for DNA. Ancestry is always updating everything and changing things. So my notes I went through them and updated them, but they might be a little out of date. Is this little goodie right here that's on all these. And what this does, it allows you to link this person to your tree. So here's my mom. I'll show you on a blank when you do this, and then I could view her in tree, remove from tree. And it's just, it doesn't really do much for research wise, but for me, it marks whether I have them in my tree or not. So it's like Alexander Lawrence. I have no idea who he is. I know He's on my mother's side, so let's look at that. So if he was in my tree, here's that little symbol again. I can do that, and I can search for him and link him to my tree, but I don't know who he is. So I go shared matches. So because I had my mom's DNA tested, Ancestry will come in and automatically populate and tell me it's on my mom's side. If you're looking for your bio parents, that's not going to happen to you. So I know he's on my mom's side. Other than that, his tree's useless. The name doesn't ring a bell. I've asked other people who I'm related to, and nothing. Another thing I haven't really touched on is Ancestry's let's go back to me. So you get these little leaves up here. That's what the Ancestry always advertises, these little leaves and everything like that. So this is what you're paying for, because I believe you could start a free tree on Ancestry, but you don't get these connections. So these connections, I need to do that here, hence. I should probably go to someone who, okay, there's my hints. Okay, newspaper marriage, obituary. Let's go to someone who I haven't developed, because one of the hints on here that you don't get on your phone is hints to other people's trees. Okay, here's Find a Grave. Find a Grave is, I love Find a Grave. Find a Grave is, I think it's also, I don't know if Ancestry bought it or not. I think they did. It's documentation of genealogy by grave sites. So sometimes you'll find things in Ancestry that aren't true. Because people are just putting in garbage, whatever. My trees are very, very accurate. It take a lot of work and researching and backing all that stuff up to make sure they're accurate. A good thing to bounce that off of is Find a Grave, because no grave site, you're not on the tree. So I could just touch on that quickly. So here's my memorials. I can go manage, I can go sponsor, because I sponsor close relatives. So here's my grandma, and you can see it's like a tree. You've got all your things here. So I can go to her dad, okay, who also ended up being adopted. We just found that out and never knew. And he put the youngest 2 kids up for adoption, actually 3. The mother died in childbirth. You can see he had a lot of kids, so he put them up for adoption. Richard right here, we always knew who he was. He was adopted by a Brazilian family. And when he turned, I think it was 21, they told him he could be a US citizen, and he did, and reconnected with the family. This one here, Janet, I just connected with recently. I saw them come up, and it came up. She's passed, but her son came up as a second cousin. It's like, how can I have a second cousin? I don't know. So I wrote him and wrote back, and he goes, yes, my mom was adopted. She always looked for her family, and so was able to add them back into our family. So there's 2, Evelyn. Actually, I don't know. It's not on this tree, it's on another tree. So anyway, Find a Grave is a great another way to do research. And I actually, you can see here, I pulled death certificates, cost a little bit of money, but a lot of times you could find out information you didn't know. I mean, parents, who their parents are and stuff like that, where do they live. So there's a lot of different avenues you can do. So let's try to find what I'm looking for in this. Because some of these trees will actually, and now when you start filling things out, Ancestry will pull things automatically from other people's trees, and they'll start making connections for you. Connections may be true or may not. If that's why, if you're doing a research tree, I would go for them. I don't know why they're not showing up in my tree here. There you go. So, if you're doing a research tree, it doesn't really matter. So here's Lillian Hope. I haven't found her from being adopted. Richard, who we knew in Brazil. And the new one is Janet. And then again, I have both her families in there. So let's go into, I haven't done a lot of research on him. One ancestry hint. Okay, here we go. Ancestry member trees. So you review it, and then you get all the other people's trees who they may have hints to. You can select all these trees and compare them to yours. I find it gets a little messy. I like to pick maybe one or two trees because Ancestry will kind of meld the two trees. In this case, I know Keith is, there's no differences anyway because I already did it. I just want to show you that you can, that is one of the search options that you will get when you're searching the leaves, which, it all helps. So we went over DNA. I don't even know what these health is, like an add-on that you could purchase when you do your DNA test. There's a company called Prometheus, which for $5 you could plug your DNA into it. I have it, I think, in my handout. And so I don't pay for the health things. I mean, 23andMe is more for health. That's why it is a Silicon Valley based company, where Ancestry, I think it just got purchased, but it was, Mormon, Utah based company. They have all the records anyway. That's why I think it's such a powerhouse. If you want, you're adopted, you want to know your health, you don't want to spend extra money to get your DNA tested on 23andMe, you could just export your DNA into Prometheus, and it'll give you more than you bargained for in your health benefits. I got, let's see if I can show you a typical. I don't know where I filed it. I won't bore you too long if I don't find it. Here we go. So I'll just show you my report. If it's still, it might not even still come up. I do have a PDF of it somewhere. So what it does, it goes through and gives you all your risk. So 1.7 times risk of rheumatoid arthritis. Low risk, 30% white women of, atrial fibrillation. So this is what you get from Prometheus, and you can see it here. You can get the spelling of it here. And it gives you very, very detailed, and I forget what it was. I mean, it might have gone up in price, but it's not that expensive. And once you pay for it, obviously they keep your report. So 23andMe, I mean, if you got the money, get it. I mean, I do have some relatives that have appeared on 23andMe and not on Ancestry. But if you want to find your bio parents, it's Ancestry hands down all the way, just because you have the power of your DNA connection with a family tree. And I really I'm not aware of any other company that has that power to be able to do all that. I got it filled now for another 8 minutes or so. Actually, that clock's 5, 6 minutes. So Prometheus, I've done how I do my little cheat trees on the side. So I've gone over, I don't know if a tree overview doesn't really tell you much. It's just like how many people in your tree. I've got 17,000. Yes, I'm a busy bee. When you start doing mirror trees and you're importing other people's trees, your tree will grow pretty quickly if you've got good DNA connections to pull from. Also too, on your profiles, go back to tree. And some people go crazy. Some people scan everything on their tree, and it used to be, oh, there's home. Still have it. Okay, home just takes you back. You always set the home person as yourself, and it'll take me back to me. It should. It's not. I'm not there. That's not me. Okay, why is it not showing me? Okay, I'm here. Now if I can remember what I was going to say. So profile. You have life story, which is just kind of a summary. It summarizes everything that's in your facts. You've got your facts. These are items accepted from your tree, source, California Birth Index. All this came from Ancestry. Then you have gallery. This is where you can scan and put things in. So this is birth certificates, my half-brother's 50th birthday. Now, when you put something like this into picture and I import it, you can link it right here to more than one people. So I don't have to put the same photo for me and my wife. So I can add another person and link it to another person. So when you're importing data that's good for more than one person, you could link it to them. So this is just kind of, fun stuff. Birth certificates, marriage certificates. You can send away. Marriage certificates are a little harder to get. Death certificates, you can get certified or not certified. So if I go to family history, so I break my thing down to families, but then I have research, and then I have certificate applications. So here's all the states I'm looking at. Also this lovely one, California county codes. Every county has a code. And so that if you get into details and stuff like that, that can help. So California state form, and they update these periodically. They kind of scare you off. Let me go to the current one here, 2020. They make it sound like you can't do it unless it's certified and notarized and all this stuff. If you want an informational copy only, it's really easy to do. So you have two choices. You can go to the county or you can go to the state. I like just going to the state. Just one place makes it easy. They should have everything there. So here, certified copy, authorized person only. Oh, gee, am I authorized or not? So you fill all this out. You're not any of these. If you are related, you could just pick one. Excuse me. So here, I'm requesting authorized copy, notarized sworn statement required. I'm requesting an informational copy. So you select informational. Fill out as much information as you can. There's no agency. It's just your name, your mailing address, telephone number, reason for a request. I always put genealogy. And you just mail it in. You got a check and no sworn statement. You only want one copy, no reason you want more than one copy, and you get your death certificate. So that's how that goes. There we go. Okay, I'm almost at 4 o'clock when it's question and answer time. So I'm going to put these over to the side. I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, I have a question and answer thing. So if anyone wants to type in answers, we're having a little bit of trouble with questions coming in. I see I only have 5 participants, so probably not a lot of questions. I might have to go on talking to myself for another half hour. Most of the questions came in easily from iPhones, and I think it was only anything beyond an iPhone 8. Okay, here we go. Cami, hi. How did I start doing this? Like I said, my family's always been into genealogy. So I had a lot of handwritten trees from here and there. So I was well into this before we decided to do, before DNA testing came along. So just interesting for me. We're not Mormon, just into genealogy, always have been, with fairly long lineage within the United States. So just fun. I could be a son of American Revolution, but that type of stuff doesn't excite me. So I just, just a hobby, kind of, I guess you say. And I kind of keep the master tree for all of my cousins and everything like that. If they want to share my tree, I let them, it's no problem. So, and then the DNA, like I said, with my wife was just because she didn't know who her maternal granddad was. And so that's why we did our DNA. And it just stumbled along on the fact that she was adopted by probably pure stupidity. And just one thing led to another. She was, that's another thing to talk about. She was obviously never told that she was adopted. And, talking to her, going back and everything like that, she said, I wouldn't have mind. I understand her mom did it on purpose because her mom was teased about being a bastard child and all that stuff. So there's a stigma going along. So she didn't want any of that stigma going on to my wife. So I didn't tell her. There's a lot of other women in the Canada who adopted kids. They always pressured her saying she should know. My wife said she probably wished she'd know about the time she got married, had kids. It would have been nice to know, but doesn't have any bitter feelings about not knowing. And she read the book. Oh God, I'm gonna blank on it. Anyway, it's like she has all the symptoms of being adopted without knowing, psychological symptoms without knowing that she was adopted. So it's very interesting how all that works out, everything like that. But for us, the end result was fantastic. And the funny thing is when I found her bio dad, I was here at work. The picture of high school, you get Ancestry mines yearbooks, and so I called my daughter over and I said, "What do you think?" And she goes, now I know what I'd look like if I had a guy with short hair. I mean, the two were just splitting images of each other. Somewhere in here, I have a picture of her. So here's kind of a little thing I threw together. So here's my wife, here's bio dad, and here's bio mom. So, you could, you see that it's kind of worth everything when you get something like that. So this is the picture I first saw of him. And I just knew, chin, everything is this, that's him. So, that makes it all worthwhile when something like that happens, in my opinion. And then when you make the connection and meet family, and the funny thing is my wife looks more like the dad than any of there was 3 siblings in that family. Any of her, I guess they're half sisters. Well, 2 half sisters, 1 half brother. So that's kind of bittersweet for her that that she looks more like him. But yeah, this is fun. It was very good connecting. So I don't know if you have any other questions of all 5 of my participants. I can keep rambling. So another interesting thing on death certificates, assuming you, okay, thank you. You're welcome, Cami. Another interesting thing about death certificates, assuming you work out who your bio relatives are, is you get to see what they died from. You know, as morbid as that sounds, it's better than pulling a health thing from Mises or 23andMe. I went back. My dad died from a major aneurysm, as did his. You know, we have a lot of strokes and aneurysms on his side and a little bit on my mom's side. So, you know, when I'm 60, get a little bit older, start getting scanned for stuff like that. It just kind of gives you a little leg up. If you have heart disease, you just know what to tell your doctor and all that stuff. So for me, death certificates are a wealth of information. Again, obituaries, a wealth of information. Just doing Google searches, all that stuff. So there's a lot of different ways of researching what you're looking for. Just putting, you know, just getting everything out, your non-identifying paperwork, Ancestry, getting all your DNA and everything like that. I don't know if I could, there's anything else I missed on. Share screen again. Bring back this. So on DNA, right here, view your DNA. DNA story, I think it just takes you back to the map of where you are. It's like, okay, I mean, it's interesting stuff, but it really doesn't tell you anything you want for your research. DNA matches, that's what you're looking for. Scout story, I have no, they come up with this new things all the time and try to make it fancy and everything like that. Sometimes they make big changes that really kind of, you have to learn how to use the program all over again. Through lines, we talked, that's over here too. Personal discovery projects, I have no idea. Activated test, biotest, pretty self-explanatory. I don't even remember what the settings are. Okay, testing. So here's tree link. I talked a little bit about how to link your DNA test when it comes into your tree. This is how you do it. You go to your DNA test and you link it. You can change how you want people to view your DNA matches. I'm all for sharing. I've got nothing to hide. So, I'm all for, doing all that stuff. If I could help someone else in their search for something, I'm all for it. And then here's download DNA at the very bottom. So, and then delete DNA, I would never do that. So, things are pretty, you could pretty much muddle through this program, once you get into it and start playing with it. The main thing is just knowing that if I have duplicates, I can fix it. If I, just know that you have to go into the person profile, and then here's your tools here: view tree, view notes, view commands. Again, you have view notes here along the top bar here too. merge with duplicate, remember connect, and then edit. The biggest one is edit relationships. You learn how to do that. How that you have that ability to do that. That's a great tool. I mean, my thing here is just to show you this is what you could do with the program. It takes a lot of work. I think I said it in the write-up on this. Not everyone's going to be able to figure this out. Not everyone's brain works the same. I like detective work. So for me, this is like a detective work or playing a game. I find it exciting and fun. Building all these trees, and then, oh yeah, I remember that name from over here where you got two trees and all of a sudden you link those two trees together. I find it exciting. You may not. This isn't for everybody. So if you get into it and you're frustrated, it may not be for you. It's just, not everyone's mind works the same. So don't get frustrated and just, there's groups that you could pay people to do this for you. I don't know what that would cost. I can't imagine it being cheap with the amount of hours I have into this. You could just put your DNA out there and see if someone contacts you. So just getting your DNA done, making yourself searchable. Your tree's not going to be searchable yet. Off you go, just give it a try, see how far you get. Don't get frustrated. One of the other, there's an article, I think I gave the link to, 6 things to do when your DNA doesn't match. So here it is. Search for an unlinked tree. We went over that. Even though it's unlinked, sometimes they are big, but usually if it's an unlinked tree, it's not big. Triangulate with shared matches. So this is what we went over on the triangulation. So that's all it is about. Use the user ID. So I was able to, when I did that study tree for that lady, she had a username, so I put that down. Even though she was private, technically, I was able to put a name in there for her. See if there's an administrator. Sometimes, like for my wife's biodad, the wife was the administrator, and you can contact these people. I can go over. So if I'm, so the DNA, oh, not DNA story, no. Oh my God. So in your DNA here, let's go to Catherine. I can't remember. So I can messenger right here. So I could send her a message and give it a subject and see if she'll respond. Now I know she would respond, but sometimes I write people and they don't respond. I mean, you're at the whim of everybody. So again, in the notes, I would say when I wrote her, just so it doesn't, you don't mistakenly, I've made a mistake of bugging people twice. So here, Google the person. You never know what you're going to find out with Google. Ask. That's just asking people. Add a tree to your DNA results. So I think that's more mirror tree. So I have links to articles like that. Hopefully all that will help. There's different search. What else do I have for you? So this is the letter we got. So this is when I thought that the county adopted her. We just did a lot of writing. I mean, you just do a lot of writing and find things out, talk to people. Usually people are fairly responsive to you, contacting them and everything. So you just put yourself out there. You've got nothing to lose. I'm kind of fishing here. Anyone questions? Anyone? Okay, Craig. What about monogamy? Rules don't apply to regular DNA. Any experts? I have no idea what monogamy is. I'm going to Google it. And I know I pronounce it wrong. I pronounce everything wrong. D. Okay, that's the custom of marrying only within the limits of a local community, clan, or tribe compared to exogamy. I had a relative where they married their, I think it was a first cousin. Not, I don't know if that's exactly. So all the DNA kept saying the wife's name Smith too, and he was a Smith, and they're relatives. So it's like, no, that can't be true. So I usually don't pay for things, but I paid for a genealogist on this. Actually, very, very reasonable. You can get good genealogists and bad. I mean, if they're not producing data, I had one person I was kind of pumping money into it and I never got anything, so I just cut the ties. This guy, I think it was like $100 or less. I got like an inch worth of data. And he was the one who was able to solve this and said, yes, it was a cousin. But things like that could kind of trip you up because your mind doesn't correlate that it's the same last name. Now you're asking more DNA. I don't know if it would make your, if you have two DNA from the same cousins, relatives, if that would make your count go up. I don't know. That would be actually a good question, probably for DNA detectives. On Facebook, they deal with this stuff all the time. Yeah, don't know. That's an interesting question. And then, there's always, along that same line, marrying within the same local community, incest, all that stuff does happen. It'd be the same, that could be the end question that you're kind of asking, but yeah, I don't know if that would, it wouldn't make, I don't think it'd make your DNA numbers go up anymore, but it could affect, I don't know. I really don't know. Interesting. So if you get this DNA, which I think I included in it, the chart, it's pretty, they get pretty first cousin, half aunt. Yeah, I don't know. There's always, there might be another website for just talking about that. I called something up right now. I wasn't screen sharing. Anyway, it's the DNA detectives chart. Yeah. So when I was doing my wife's DNA, when I thought, I think it's June. And again, the DNA will like say what they predict your DNA is. Where's my other tree? I think I closed it. So they were predicting on the Raven side. Let's see if I can find her. June. Looking on her name. I haven't done this. Okay, Judy, excuse me. So they're saying Judy here was a second cousin. That's how the Ancestry's DNA came out. It's actually, she's a first cousin one time removed. It doesn't come out correctly here. So when I was like looking at that, it showed a whole different set of group of relatives as being her sibling. So I think all these, let's see. Anyway, I was like looking at these pictures and it's like, it just doesn't look right. Something's off here. You know, if she is a second cousin, then once I realized that her mother, or her dad remarried, then it put everything in a different perspective and I was able to make that connection. So you always have to keep, just because Ancestry says their DNA that someone's like a second cousin, it doesn't always. So here's her dad. And I'm lost now. I used to know this tree so much. Okay, Forrest. So Forrest had two wives. Well, okay, Margaret and Esta. So Judy, her grandma is Esta. Lauren, his mother was Margaret. So, and here's Debbie. So you can see how it threw the DNA off as far as like who's okay, so here I was looking at these people here as being my wife's, well, him, dad. I think there's some other ones here. And the looks weren't there. So that's when I first saw Lauren. It's just like, voila. Okay. I mean, that's him. So, yeah, you got to look at the DNA they do. Like my DNA is all based on, it changes it makes assumptions, but then I've had things where it said it's like a third cousin and it ends up being a second cousin. So they'll say like first a second cousin, second a third. You got to kind of take this with a grain of salt. That's why you look more at the CMs here. Across how many segments, I don't really get into that. So again, okay, now they break it down to you. If it could be a second cousin one time removed. So it looks like they're getting into the DNA chart. This is new for me. So less than 1% chance that they'd be a fourth cousin. So, Ancestry is always improving and always making inroads into all this stuff. And it just keeps getting easier and easier and easier to find people and everything. So that's actually interesting that they now do that. So that replaces basically replaces this DNA chart here. So you don't even, it's nice to always have something like this. But now it's all built into the Ancestry tree. So here's another unlinked tree. So this, okay, they've got two unlinked trees. And, pretty good sized trees. So you never, you always have to click on the unlinked trees, see what they are, see how much information's in them. Funny thing is my clock on my computer is like 5 minutes slower than the actual time. So I have to keep looking at my phone because I'm supposed to end this right at 4:30. So, sorry, there's only like, I've lost a participant. Oh no. So, any questions? Any people are going to have questions afterwards? Can I end this early? Cami, can I end it early? Do I need to keep talking? Let's see what else I can show you. Now I have to remember to go back and delete that tree that I started. I don't even remember. I didn't write it down what her name was. Or you could just leave it. It doesn't really matter. So it's just funny because this is the my I got like a whole bunch of my great grandfather who would end up, we found probate documents that prove that he was adopted, married a few times. Let's see. So here's like, we found some adoption dockets online where it talks about him being adopted. And we found there was like his mother who adoptive, his adoptive mom, actually, here we go, in her will mentioned, that's not it. She actually mentioned, wrote about him saying, and my adoptive son, Charles, docket. So anyway, there's a lot of like little informations that you can find here and there. And then on Find a Grave, what I did for my grandma, this is my grandma whose the kids were, the three youngest was put up for adoption. So she meant a lady who became her guardian. So you can develop in Ancestry links to her. I just feel like I paid homage to her for being so nice to my grandma and raising her. So this is the lady. So I developed a little site for her, and then I can go back to my grandma. So it's a lot of fun little things you can get into these things. Before my dad passed, my mom's still alive, but I used to, I'm from Santa Rosa, go up there and go to all the family cemeteries. We went to family cemeteries I'd only heard about. And it was kind of a fun little thing to do with my parents and start documenting all this stuff. So my granddad, that's my granddad and his parents. So let's see, they had, this is where they were all buried. And you know, I'd always heard about this crypt and everything like that. And so one day my parents and I went there, and they didn't have the keys for it. We got them to break down the lock, got to take pictures of everything, and it was fun. Like I said, our whole family was like into that stuff. So, you know, this just depends how much you want to document and how much you know. You can document your adoptive parents, and you know, hopefully you can have good luck finding your bio parents and have as much success as I had. I see 429. I am going to sign out. Hope you had a good time. Bye.